Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. The Imperial fleet never lacked in numbers or firepower. The sight of a single Imperial-class Star Destroyer was enough to make even the hardest rebel reconsider their life choices. However, the Imperial fleet would have never been what it was without the Republic Navy that was its predecessor. The Republic Navy was well-manned and supplied, but much smaller in size compared to the might of the Imperial Navy at its height. The doctrines of these two navies were also vastly different, and this is seen during their time in combat. Today I want to run a scenario where these two fleets are perfectly matched in size and strength, so that we can finally figure out which navy is superior. With the induction of the Tarkin Doctrine, the Imperial Navy opted for more weapons on their Star Destroyers above all else. This was to inspire fear amongst the people of the Empire. In 18 BBY, a handful of ships were able to wipe out all life on the planet of Kamas during what would be known as the Kamas Firestorm. Imperial Star Destroyers were armed with 60 turbolaser batteries and 60 ion cannon batteries, which were more than capable of shredding any other warship it came across, be it Rebel or former Separatist. At 1,600 meters long, an ISD is much longer than a Venator-class Star Destroyer and also has more room for weapons and placements. The wars that these two navies fought were vastly different, however. While the ISD was designed to destroy any ship that it encountered, the weapons of the Venator-class Star Destroyer were mostly designed to fend off large waves of enemy fighters. The Venators were armed with 8 heavy turbolasers, 2 medium turbolasers, 60-point defense laser cannons, and 4 heavy proton torpedo tubes. While the Venator could stand up against most ships of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, a single Venator would be obliterated by an ISD if they were to trade broadsides. A Venator's best option in any engagement with an ISD is to keep its distance. The Imperial Navy's role at its height was primarily to police the hyperspace lanes and defend resource-rich worlds. Shortly after its inception, the Imperial Navy did engage some Separatist remnant forces in the Western Reaches campaign. However, these engagements were far from the large battles between the Separatist and Republic fleets. And once the last Separatist holdouts had been dealt with, the Imperial Navy basically hunted down pirates. Until the Rebel fleet became a significant threat, most Imperial Navy personnel had little to no experience in actual naval combat. The only individuals within the Imperial Navy that were considered skilled would probably be the TIE fighter pilots who had to engage Rebel pilots in far superior snub fighters. Imperial starfighter pilots were basically the only ones with real combat experience, and although their fighters were not nearly as good as the Republic fighters, their experience and proven tenacity does give them a leg up when it comes to considering the personnel of both of these factions. But the Republic Navy had been in a constant state of battle for almost 3 years. Officers like Admiral Yularen and Admiral Coburn were highly decorated and skilled commanders due to their many years of experience within actual wars, as were their crews. It's safe to assume that the average Republic clone crew was far superior to the average Imperial crew. The clones were usually trained all the way from childhood. Take General Grievous's ambush of Obi-Wan's fleet when the Republic were on their way to rescue Ahsoka Tano and several Jedi Padawan. Obi-Wan had only 3 Venators and was attacked by 5 Separatist warships, 2 of which were Providence-class destroyers. It's very unlikely they would be able to beat them back, but Obi-Wan still ordered his men to the battle station. The Empire was used to fighting an enemy that they outnumbered by ridiculous numbers, so facing off against the Republic would be something out of the norm for them. One of the main tactics of the Imperial Navy was the frontal assault. Due to the large amounts of firepower on their ships, Imperial officers like to use overlapping fields of fire and create a wedge-style formation and ram it straight into the enemy. This tactic could totally be used against the Empire as well. Most of the Imperial officer corps were full of individuals who were obsessed with obtaining glory. This could be seen with Admiral Constantine during the Battle of Atollon. An experienced Republic commander can easily draw in an overeager Imperial captain and surround them with their own forces. If the Republic fleet can't stand up against the Imperial fleet, they could hold their ships out of range of the ISDs and use their starfighters to weaken or destroy them. The chief doctrine of the Republic Navy was to heavily focus on starfighters rather than battleships like the Empire. This tactic would be highly effective against the Imperial fleet, as seen throughout the Galactic Civil War with the Rebel starfighters. Imperial vessels lacked adequate point defense weapons, and a Venator-class Star Destroyer could carry up to 420 starfighters, which would easily overwhelm any ISD's defenses. At its height, the Republic Navy relied on highly advanced and versatile starfighters. The Imperial Navy, on the other hand, used the TIE series, a far inferior platform. The hangar of a single vendor can house 192 Torrent starfighters, 192 V-Wings or Z-95s, 50 Y-Wings, and 36 ARC-170s. A single ISD can only hold 72 TIE series fighters. This includes bombers, interceptors, and in-space superiority fighters. Like the X-Wings the Empire faced, the ARC-170 alone would outclass most of these TIE fighters. While it primarily took on the role of a fighter-bomber, the ARC-170 was heavily armed and armored and was surprisingly maneuverable for a ship of its size. Another advantage was it had a hyperdrive. Should the Republic Navy want to protect its ships, it could adopt a hit-and-run strategy against the Imperial Navy. The Vendor-class Star Destroyer wouldn't need to wait to recall all of their starfighters if they are equipped with hyperdrives. They could just jump out of a system immediately. The slower fighters like the ARC-170s and Y-Wings had issues dealing with droid fighters, but these were far faster and more unpredictable than the TIEs. The ARC-170s and Y-Wings could also pave the path for a Republic fleet and weaken Imperial ships before other Republic capital ships arrive within firing range. Should a TIE in-space superiority fighter go head-to-head with something like a Z-95 starfighter or a Torrent fighter, the TIE fighter would most likely be beaten. While TIE fighters were pretty maneuverable, they lacked shielding, armor, and heavy weapons. A Z-95 not only had laser cannons on it, it also had torpedo tubes. The only standard fighter that might give the Republic ships trouble was the TIE Interceptor, but there were so few on board an ISD, it's unclear if they would make much of a difference. Had the Defender program gotten more traction and funding, it's possible that the Republic Imperial fighters would be more evenly matched, but as it stands, the Republic starfighters had the TIEs beaten in almost every category. It's practically a joke to talk about the overall incompetence of the Imperial Command, but it's something we need to discuss in this section. Imperial leadership was oftentimes cutthroat, and the Sith doctrines that Emperor Palpatine used to rule encouraged very negative competition in his officers that started all the way in the Academy. Officers would oftentimes stab each other in the back for their own gain, or you would have career officers who were completely incompetent like Admiral Ozzel, who was kind of a political appointee. Like, obviously, if someone like Thrawn took overall command of the Imperial Navy, things would be different, but we're going to say he doesn't in this scenario because he is one in a trillion and does not really represent traditional Imperial training. As a matter of fact, he faced resistance from Imperial officers and commanders his entire life because of the poor culture cultivated in the Imperial Officer Corps. The Republic Navy really didn't face these kind of problems, despite their overall lack of experience in the beginning of the war. Whether the commander was a Jedi or a career officer, the clones underneath their command were bred to be loyal and extremely efficient. There's no question that the Empire has larger and more powerful ships and would probably win when it comes to exchanging broadsides, but the Republic fought smarter, had better tactics, and much better starfighters. If both fleets were the same size and waged a large-scale war against each other, if the Republic strategists can outthink their Imperial counterparts, they will win the war. Take real-life naval encounters. The Battle of Midway is oftentimes referred to as the battle that killed the battleship. Carrier warfare was still new in World War II, and most nations still believed that the battleship was key to victory on the seas. As mighty as a battleship was, it wouldn't be able to defend itself from overwhelming attacks from waves of fighters and bombers launched by carriers several miles away, safe from the battleship's guns. The Emperor had battleships and the Republic had carriers, which is why we think that the Republic would probably win in any kind of long-term war where the two sides are evenly matched. But let me know in the comments section below what you think, and also a special thanks to James, one of our fans, who helped us write this video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.